He was just a delivery boy, until he accidentally spoke the dead language of the Star Kings. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. Alex Mason had never been anything special. Just another underpaid delivery guy rushing through the crowded streets of New Terra Colony, trying to make rent in humanity's newest interstellar outpost. The year was 2287, and humanity had spread across 17 star systems, sharing space with a dozen alien civilizations in an uneasy alliance known as the Galactic Concord. It was a Tuesday when Alex's life changed forever. He was delivering a package to the Xenoarchaeology department at New Terra University, sweating in the humid artificial atmosphere. The package was marked fragile and urgent, which usually meant a bigger tip if he hurried. The department was housed in a gleaming white building with curved walls that resembled the ancient ruins of the long-extinct Star Kings, the mysterious precursor civilization that had once ruled the galaxy 50,000 years ago. Their disappearance remained the greatest enigma in galactic archaeology. Alex wiped the sweat from his brow as he approached the reception desk, where a bored-looking Tellurian sat filing her claws. The Tellurians resembled sleek, bipedal felines with azure fur and slitted golden eyes. This one wore the crisp, white uniform of university staff. "Package for Professor Barrett," Alex said, setting the box on the counter. The Tellurian receptionist barely looked up. "The professor is in a meeting with the Galactic Heritage Committee. Leave it here." "Sorry, but I need a direct signature. Company policy for items marked urgent." The receptionist sighed, her whiskers twitching in annoyance. "Fine. Down the hall, third door on the left. But don't interrupt if they're in the middle of something important." Alex nodded and carried the package down the hallway. The walls were lined with display cases containing artifacts from various extinct civilizations, fragments of pottery, twisted metal objects, and what looked like ancient data crystals. The Star Kings exhibit dominated the center of the hall, displaying fragments of stone tablets covered in swirling, angular symbols. Alex paused, staring at the symbols. For some strange reason, they seemed almost familiar, like words on the tip of his tongue. He shook his head and continued to the professor's office. The door was ajar, and Alex could hear heated voices from inside. He knocked gently, but no one seemed to notice. Awkwardly, he pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. The office was spacious, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the colony's central plaza. 7 people sat around a conference table, 3 humans, 2 Tellurians, a bulky, reptilian Caldari, and a willowy, translucent Meridian. They were so engrossed in their argument that they didn't notice Alex. "The funding for the excavation on Proxima 4 is critical," Professor Barrett, a silver-haired woman in her 60s, was saying. "If we don't secure the site now, looters will destroy valuable evidence. The Council cannot allocate more resources to chasing ghosts," the Caldari rumbled, his scaled skin flushing orange with irritation. 50,000 years of searching has yielded nothing but fragments. The Star Kings are gone, and their secrets with them. "Ambassador Terex, with all due respect," Barrett countered, "the recent discoveries suggest they might have left behind something of immense value." The partial translation of the Helios tablet indicates. "Partial translations mean nothing," interrupted one of the Tellurians, adjusting his ornate diplomatic sash. "Your human xenolinguists have been trying to decipher the Star King's language for centuries with minimal success." Alex stood awkwardly by the door, the package still in his hands. He cleared his throat, but the debate continued. The Meridian delegate, whose body rippled like water in sunlight, gestured toward a holographic projection of a tablet. The inscription clearly warns of a danger, but without the complete translation, we cannot determine its nature. Alex's eyes were drawn to the hologram. The swirling symbols seemed to pulse in his vision, and without thinking, he muttered under his breath, "It's not a warning. It's a key." The room fell silent. 7 pairs of eyes turned to stare at him. "What did you just say?" Professor Barrett asked slowly. Alex blinked, suddenly aware that he had spoken aloud. I don't know. The symbols seemed. I mean, I'm just here to deliver this package. He held up the box awkwardly. The Meridian floated toward him, her translucent form shimmering with curious pulses of light. Young human, please look at the inscription again and tell us what you see. Feeling foolish, Alex glanced at the holographic tablet. To his astonishment, the symbols seemed to rearrange themselves in his mind, forming words he somehow understood. It says, "The key of ascension rests within the seventh seal. Speak the words of awakening when the three moons align, and the path to the celestial archive will open." He paused, confused. Wait, how do I know that? The room erupted in chaos. The Caldari ambassador rose to his feet, his massive form looming over the table. Impossible. No one has been able to translate more than fragments of the Star King's language in 5 centuries. Professor Barrett approached Alex cautiously, as if he might vanish if she moved too quickly. Young man, what's your name? Alex. Alex Mason. I deliver for Galactic Express. Alex, she said gently. Do you have any background in xenolinguistics or archaeology? No, ma'am. Just a regular delivery guy. The Tellurian diplomat hissed something to his colleague, who responded with a dismissive flick of her tail. Barrett pointed to another section of the holographic tablet. Can you read this part? Alex looked at the symbols, and again, they seemed to shift and arrange themselves into comprehensible words. The Celestial Archive contains the collective knowledge of our civilization. We entrust it to those who follow, should they prove worthy of its power. Beware the Void Harbingers, for they still hunger in the dark between stars. The Meridian delegate's form pulsed rapidly with blue light, an indication of extreme excitement in her species. By the eternal tides, he's reading it fluently, as if it were his native tongue. The Caldari ambassador slammed his scaled fist on the table, leaving a small dent in the metal surface. This is some kind of trick. The humans have found a way to translate the language and are keeping it secret to gain advantage. I assure you, Ambassador, Professor Barrett said firmly, we are as surprised as you are. Alex felt dizzy. The symbols kept rearranging themselves in his vision, revealing more and more text that somehow made perfect sense to him. There's more, he said, almost in a trance. It speaks of a network of gateways connecting their worlds, and something called the Ascension Protocol. The mythical network of stargates, whispered one of the human researchers. We found fragments suggesting their existence, but never confirmation. The Caldari ambassador moved with surprising speed for his bulk, grabbing Alex's arm with a powerful, clawed hand. How are you doing this, human? Who taught you the forbidden tongue? No one. I've never seen these symbols before today. Alex tried to pull away, but the ambassador's grip was like iron. Release him immediately, Barrett demanded. He's a civilian under my planet's protection. This human possesses knowledge that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy, the ambassador growled. The Caldari Imperium has rights to this discovery, as does the Tellurian Confederacy, hissed the feline diplomat. And the Meridian Collective, added the translucent delegate. Professor Barrett stepped between Alex and the increasingly agitated aliens. What we have here is an unprecedented scientific discovery that belongs to all civilizations under the Galactic Concord. This young man needs protection and study, not interrogation. Study, Alex echoed, suddenly alarmed. Look, I just came to deliver a package and get a signature. Barrett took the package from his hands and signed the delivery tablet without looking at it. Alex, I know this is overwhelming, but you've just demonstrated an ability that no one in recorded history has possessed. Somehow, you can read and understand the language of the Star Kings, a civilization whose technology was so advanced that the remnants of it still outclass our most cutting-edge developments. But I'm nobody, Alex protested. Just a delivery guy? Not anymore, the Meridian said, her voice like gentle chimes in a breeze. The question is not who you were, but who you are about to become. Before Alex could respond, an alarm blared throughout the building. Red emergency lights began flashing in the hallway. Proximity alert, announced the university's AI system. Unidentified vessels have entered orbit. They are not responding to hails and have deployed drop ships. Security protocols engaged. The Caldari ambassador's scales paled to a sickly yellow. The Void Harbingers, he whispered, echoing the term from the ancient tablet. They were supposed to be a myth. What's happening? Alex asked, his heart pounding. Barrett gripped his shoulder. I don't know, but I think your reading that tablet aloud may have triggered something. We need to get you to safety. The building shook as something massive impacted nearby. The windows darkened automatically as the university's defensive systems activated. All civilians proceed to designated shelter areas, the AI announced calmly. This is not a drill. The conference room door burst open, and a security officer rushed in. Professor Barrett, we need to evacuate. Unidentified hostiles have breached the perimeter. They're heading straight for the Xenoarchaeology department. What do they look like? The Meridian delegate asked. Humanoid, but wrong somehow. Covered in black armor with no visible faces. They're not responding to any communication attempts and are neutralizing anyone in their path. Alex felt a chill run down his spine as he remembered the words he had read. Beware the Void Harbingers, for they still hunger in the dark between stars. We need to move, now, Barrett ordered. And we need to protect Alex at all costs. Me? Why me? Because, said the Caldari ambassador, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. You may be the only one who can understand what's happening. The only one who can read the warnings left behind by those who fought these things before. The building shook again, more violently this time. Dust rained from the ceiling. The emergency shuttle is on the roof, Barrett said. We can reach the capital city's secure facility from there. They hurried into the hallway, where panicked students and staff were rushing toward the emergency exits. Through the windows, Alex could see black ships descending from the clouds, their hulls gleaming like oil in sunlight. This way, Barrett directed, leading them toward a restricted elevator at the end of the corridor. She pressed her palm against the scanner, and the door slid open. As they crowded inside, the Meridian delegate turned to Alex. If you truly can understand the language of the Star Kings, you must help us. Their civilization faced these harbingers before and found a way to fight them. But I'm just a delivery boy. Yes, we know. The Tellurian diplomat cut in impatiently. But now you're much more. You're our only hope of understanding what we're facing. The elevator ascended rapidly to the roof, where an emergency shuttle waited on a landing pad. Wind whipped around them as they ran toward it. In the distance, columns of smoke rose from various points around the colony. As they boarded the shuttle, Alex looked back at the university building. Dark figures were pouring through the main entrance, humanoid shapes in glossy black armor that seemed to absorb the light around them. One looked up, and though Alex couldn't see a face behind the featureless helmet, he felt its gaze lock onto him. The shuttle's engines roared to life as the last of their group boarded. Barrett took the pilot's seat, her fingers flying over the controls. Hold on, she called back. This might get rough. The shuttle lifted off just as the dark figures reached the roof. One of them raised a weapon, a sleek, obsidian device that hummed with ominous energy. Evasive maneuvers, shouted the Caldari ambassador. Barrett banked the shuttle hard to the right as a beam of darkness, not light, but its absence, sliced through the air where they had been moments before. The beam hit a nearby communications tower, which didn't explode or melt, but simply ceased to exist, leaving a perfect circular hole through its structure. What the hell was that? Alex gasped. Void technology, the Meridian whispered, her form pulsing with anxious red light. Just as the ancient text described. Weapons that don't destroy matter but remove it from existence entirely. The shuttle accelerated away from the university, weaving between New Terra's gleaming towers. More black ships were descending through the clouds, and the colony's defense systems were engaging them with limited effect. We need to reach the secure bunker beneath the government complex, Barrett said, her voice steady despite the chaos. It was built incorporating some recovered Star King's technology. It might shield us, at least temporarily. Alex stared out the window as they flew over the city he had called home for the past 3 years. Battles were breaking out in the streets below as colonial security forces engaged the invaders. Why now, he asked. Why are they attacking now? The Meridian delegate drifted closer to him. You read the tablet aloud. You spoke the ancient language. Perhaps they were waiting, listening for someone who could activate the Star King's legacy. So this is my fault. Horror washed over Alex. No, Barrett said firmly. If these harbingers have returned, they would have done so eventually. But your ability gives us something we've never had before, a chance to understand the warnings and knowledge the Star Kings left behind. The shuttle rocked as something impacted its hull. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. We've been hit, Barrett announced grimly. Not directly, but our starboard engine is failing. I need to set down before we lose control completely. She guided the damaged shuttle toward a public park, the largest open space visible. As they descended, Alex could see people running for cover, security forces establishing defensive positions, and the dark ships continuing to disgorge more of the featureless invaders. Once we land, we'll need to proceed on foot to the government complex, Barrett said. Stay together and follow my lead. The shuttle touched down roughly on the grass. The hatch opened, and they spilled out into the chaos of a colony under attack. Sirens wailed in the distance, and the air smelled of ozone and fear. This way, Barrett directed, pointing toward a pedestrian tunnel that led in the direction of the government district. As they ran across the open park, a beam of darkness sliced through the air nearby, converting a decorative fountain into nothingness. Alex looked back to see three of the dark figures pursuing them, moving with unnatural speed and precision. Keep going, the Caldari ambassador bellowed, pulling a weapon from beneath his diplomatic robes. It was an ornate energy pistol that glowed with blue light. He fired several shots at their pursuers, forcing them to take cover. They reached the tunnel entrance, a wide archway leading underground. Once inside, the sounds of battle became muffled and distant. Emergency lighting cast everything in a red glow. The government complex is half a mile through this tunnel and 2 blocks east, Barrett explained as they jogged forward. The bunker entrance is in the sub-basement. Professor, Alex panted, those symbols on the tablet, I keep seeing more meanings in them. There was something about a defense system, a network that could be activated. The Star Kings were said to have created a galaxy-wide defense grid before their disappearance, one of the human researchers said. But no one has ever found evidence of its control systems. The tablet mentioned the Celestial Archive, Alex recalled. It said the archive contains their collective knowledge. Many worlds have ruins attributed to the Star Kings, the Tellurian diplomat said. But none have yielded functional technology of significance. Only fragments and hints. They emerged from the tunnel into a street filled with panicked civilians. The government complex was visible 2 blocks away, a massive, pyramid-shaped building of white stone and gleaming metal. Black ships circled overhead, and the distant sound of energy weapons echoed between buildings. Stay close to the buildings, Barrett instructed, and keep moving. As they hurried along the street, Alex noticed something strange. The symbols of the Star Kings, the language he could somehow read, were appearing in his vision, overlaid on reality. They hovered in the air, pointing towards certain buildings, marking pathways that only he could see. Professor, he said, grabbing Barrett's arm. I can see something. Directions, I think. In the Star King's language. Where do they lead? She asked urgently. Alex pointed to a nondescript office building across the street. There. But it's not the government complex. The group exchanged uncertain glances. It could be a trap, the Caldari ambassador warned. Or it could be salvation, the Meridian countered. The Star Kings left their knowledge for a reason. A nearby explosion rocked the ground, making the decision for them. We follow Alex, Barrett declared. Our original plan is compromised anyway. They crossed the street and entered the office building, which appeared to have been evacuated during the attack. The lobby was deserted, with signs of a hasty departure, abandoned bags, a half-eaten meal on the security desk. The glowing symbols in Alex's vision led him toward the elevator banks. This way, he said, following the ethereal trail only he could see. Elevators won't be working in an emergency, one of the researchers pointed out. But when Alex pressed the call button, the doors slid open immediately. Inside, instead of the usual floor buttons, the control panel displayed the swirling symbols of the Star Kings. "It's been here all along," Barrett whispered in awe. "Hidden in plain sight." They crowded into the elevator, and Alex studied the symbols on the panel. Without hesitation, he pressed a specific combination. The doors closed, and the elevator began to descend, far deeper than any normal building would extend. "Where are we going?" the Tellurian diplomat demanded. "I don't know exactly," Alex admitted. "But the symbols say Gateway Chamber." After what seemed like minutes of descent, the elevator slowed and stopped. The doors opened to reveal a vast, circular chamber that couldn't possibly fit within the building's foundations. The architecture was nothing like the modern styles of the colony. It was angular yet flowing, made of a material that resembled metal and stone simultaneously, glowing with internal light. At the center of the chamber stood a raised platform with a control pedestal covered in the now familiar symbols of the Star Kings. The walls were lined with what looked like thousands of data crystals, each pulsing with soft, multicolored light. The celestial archive, the Meridian breathed, her translucent form rippling with excitement. "It's real." Barrett approached the pedestal cautiously. "Alex, can you read what it says?" Alex stepped onto the platform, and the symbols on the pedestal flared brighter. Words formed in his mind, clear as day. "It's an activation sequence," he said, "for something called the Sentinel Network. The legendary defense system," one of the researchers murmured. The building shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling. The attack was intensifying above. "They know we're here," the Caldari ambassador growled. "They can sense the archive's energy signature." Alex placed his hands on the pedestal, and the symbols beneath his fingers began to glow golden. I think I'm supposed to speak the activation phrase." Barrett nodded. "Do it." Alex took a deep breath and began to speak in a language he had never learned, the flowing, musical tongue of a civilization 50,000 years dead. The words came naturally to him, as if he had always known them. As he spoke, the chamber resonated with energy. The data crystals along the walls pulsed in rhythm with his words, growing brighter with each syllable. The air seemed to thicken with power. Suddenly, a holographic projection appeared above the pedestal, a map of the galaxy, with thousands of points of light connected by glowing lines. Certain points pulsed red, forming a pattern that spread across several spiral arms. The Harbinger incursion points, Barrett realized. They're not just attacking New Terra, they're launching a coordinated assault across multiple systems. The elevator doors slid open, and 3 of the dark figures stepped into the chamber, their void weapons raised. The Caldari ambassador and the security officer opened fire immediately, forcing the invaders to take cover behind pillars at the chamber's edge. "Keep going, Alex," Barrett shouted over the sound of energy weapons. "Complete the activation." Alex continued the incantation, the words flowing faster now. The map above the pedestal zoomed in on their location, showing a detailed schematic of a device buried deep beneath New Terra colony. "A Sentinel Nexus," the Meridian exclaimed. "One of the primary nodes of the defense network." More of the dark figures were pouring into the chamber now, their void weapons slicing through pillars and barriers with terrifying effectiveness. The Caldari ambassador fell with a roar of pain as a grazing hit from a void beam removed his left arm from existence. Alex reached the final phrase of the activation sequence. As he spoke the last word, the pedestal beneath his hands transformed, reconfiguring itself into what appeared to be a control interface. "It's asking for authorization," he said, reading the symbols that flashed before him. "It needs proof that I have the right to activate the network." "How can you provide that?" Barrett asked desperately, dragging the wounded ambassador behind the pedestal for cover. Alex didn't know, but something inside him did. Without conscious thought, he pressed his palm against a glowing handprint on the interface and spoke his name, not in English, but in the language of the Star Kings. The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then a voice, ancient and powerful, echoed from the walls around them. Genetic verification complete. Descendant of the custodian lineage identified. Sentinel network activation authorized. The dark figures froze in their advance, as if suddenly uncertain. Descendant, Alex echoed, confused. What does that mean? Before anyone could respond, the chamber filled with golden light. The holographic map of the galaxy pulsed once, and thousands of points across its spiral arms flared to brilliance. The chamber trembled as energy surged through ancient conduits long dormant beneath New Terra Colony. The holographic map of the galaxy became a storm of light as thousands of points activated simultaneously across dozens of star systems. Defense network initializing, announced the voice that seemed to emanate from the very walls. Sentinel protocols engaged. Void containment measures deploying. The dark figures, the void harbingers, began to retreat toward the elevator, their movements suddenly erratic and uncertain. They're afraid, the Meridian delegate observed, her translucent form pulsing with excitement. They recognized the technology. Through the chaos, Professor Barrett approached Alex, her eyes wide with astonishment. Descendant of the custodian lineage, she repeated. Alex, do you understand what this means? Before he could answer, a section of the chamber wall dissolved, revealing a hidden alcove. Inside stood what appeared to be a suit of armor, sleek and silver white, covered in the same angular symbols Alex could now read so effortlessly. Custodian interface prepared, the chamber's voice announced. Genetic heir, claim your birthright. Alex stared at the armor, his mind reeling. I don't understand. I'm just a delivery guy. My parents were colonists from Earth, ordinary people. Perhaps not as ordinary as you thought, Barrett said gently. The Star Kings didn't just vanish, Alex. According to some theories, they might have integrated into emerging civilizations, hiding their legacy until it was needed again. Are you saying I'm part alien? I'm saying your heritage may be more complex than you realized. A violent explosion rocked the chamber as the Void Harbingers launched a desperate assault. 3 of them charged the central platform, their void weapons cutting swaths of nothingness through the air. The Caldari ambassador, despite his grievous wound, surged to his feet with a roar and tackled one of the attackers. They tumbled to the floor in a blur of scales and black armor. Claim the armor, human, he bellowed. It's our only hope. Alex hesitated only a moment longer before stepping into the alcove. The armor reacted to his presence, segments sliding open to receive him. As he stepped into it, the pieces closed around his body, fitting perfectly as if made specifically for him. Knowledge flooded his mind the instant the helmet sealed around his head. Schematics, tactical data, and the history of a civilization that had reached heights humanity could barely comprehend. The armor's systems came online, projecting information directly into his consciousness. He saw the Void Harbingers not as humanoid figures, but as they truly were, rifts in reality, tears in the fabric of existence that had taken physical form by absorbing matter from our universe. They're not invaders, Alex realized aloud, his voice resonating strangely through the armor's systems. They're infections, breaches from another dimension that feed on the energy of our reality. His body moved with newfound grace and power as the armor enhanced his strength and reflexes. He raised his arm instinctively, and the armor responded, projecting a beam of golden energy that struck the nearest harbinger. The creature didn't explode or disintegrate. Instead, it seemed to fold in on itself, the tear in reality's ceiling closed. Breach contained, the armor's systems reported in his mind. The remaining harbingers turned their focus entirely on Alex now, recognizing the greater threat. Their void weapons discharged in unison, but a shimmering field of energy materialized around him, deflecting the attacks. The Sentinel armor is fully operational, the chamber's voice announced. Custodian authorized for full network access. Celestial Archive knowledge transfer initiated. Alex gasped as information began pouring into his mind, not overwhelming him, but integrating seamlessly with his consciousness. He saw the rise of the Star Kings, their discovery of the dimensional rifts, and their centuries-long war against the Void Harbingers. He witnessed their creation of the Sentinel Network, a galaxy-wide defense system designed to detect and seal breaches between dimensions. And he understood his own role in their plans. They knew, he whispered. They knew the Harbingers would return someday. What did they know, Alex? Barrett asked, crouching behind a console as energy beams crisscrossed the chamber. The Star Kings didn't die out or disappear, Alex explained, the knowledge unfolding in his mind. They created the custodian lineages, bloodlines seeded throughout promising species across the galaxy. Human, Tellurian, Caldari, Meridian, all of our civilizations carry their genetic legacy, dormant until needed. The holographic galaxy map shifted, highlighting specific points across numerous star systems. The invasion is happening everywhere, Alex continued. The Harbingers have been waiting, gathering strength in the void between dimensions. They sensed the activation of the archive when I read the tablet. With newfound confidence, Alex stepped forward, raising both hands. The armor responded to his thoughts, projecting fields of golden energy that encircled the remaining Harbingers. One by one, they folded in on themselves, the dimensional tiers sealing shut. As the last Harbinger vanished, the chamber grew quiet. The wounded Caldari ambassador leaned against a pillar, clutching the void-erased stump of his arm, but his reptilian features showed awe rather than pain. You have sealed them, the Meridian delegate observed, drifting closer. But what of the others attacking our worlds? Alex turned his attention to the galaxy map. Through the armor's interface, he could perceive the status of the entire Sentinel network, thousands of dormant facilities coming online across dozens of worlds. And at each location, a genetic heir like himself was being identified and called to service. The network is activating everywhere, he said. Other descendants are being found. The Star Kings planned for this moment. They left their knowledge and technology distributed throughout the galaxy, protected until it was needed. Barrett approached cautiously, her scientific curiosity evident despite the danger they had just faced. Can you control the entire network from here? Not control, exactly, Alex replied, the knowledge coming naturally now. But I can coordinate. Each Sentinel facility requires a local genetic heir to operate it, but we can communicate and work together. Through the armor's systems, Alex reached out to the other awakening Sentinels. Impressions flooded back. A Tellurian archaeologist on Proxima 4, a Caldari military officer in the Rigel system, a Meridian philosopher in the Aquarius cluster, and dozens of humans across Earth's colonies. All of them, like him, suddenly awakened to their heritage and purpose. The Harbingers have breached reality at 17 major points, Alex reported, reading the tactical data. The most severe incursion is at Arcturus, where they've already consumed half the colony. Can you stop them? The Tellurian diplomat asked, his usual haughtiness replaced by genuine fear. Alex nodded, the armor's helmet gleaming in the chamber's light. The Sentinel network was designed specifically for this threat. We can seal the breaches and push the void entities back to their dimension. He reached out through the network again, establishing a coordinated response plan with the other awakened Sentinels. Together, they began activating ancient defense systems buried beneath settlements and outposts across the galaxy, systems that had lain dormant for 50,000 years. On New Terra, massive structures began to rise from hidden underground chambers, towering obelisks covered in the flowing script of the Star Kings. As they reached their full height, they began to pulse with golden energy, creating a protective dome over the colony. Dimensional stabilizers, Alex explained. They reinforced the boundaries between our reality and the void, making it impossible for the Harbingers to maintain their presence here. Through his connection with the network, Alex could sense the same process happening on worlds throughout the galaxy. The coordinated defense was pushing back the invasion on all fronts, sealing the breaches one by one. It's working, Barrett said, watching the holographic display as red alert points began to vanish across the galaxy map. There's more, Alex said, his voice filled with wonder as new information continued to unfold in his mind. The Star Kings didn't just leave us defenses. They left us their legacy, their knowledge, their technology, everything they achieved before they implemented their final plan. Final plan? The Meridian delegate asked, drifting closer to him. They didn't die out or disappear, Alex explained. They evolved. After fighting the Void Harbingers for millennia, they realized that physical form made them vulnerable to dimensional breaches. So they transformed themselves, ascending to a state of existence beyond physical form, but they couldn't take their technology with them. So they left it for us, Barrett breathed. Hidden until we were ready, or until it was needed. Alex nodded. They created the custodian lineages to preserve their genetic compatibility with the technology, seeding dozens of promising species across the galaxy. We're their inheritors, all of us, not just humans. The Galactic Concord isn't an accident. It's the fulfillment of their plan, bringing together all the species that carry their legacy. Through the armor systems, Alex received confirmation that the Harbinger incursions were being contained across all fronts. The immediate crisis was passing. What happens now? Asked the Tellurian diplomat, looking distinctly uncomfortable with these revelations. Now we rebuild, Alex said. And we prepare. The Void Harbingers will try again. They always do, according to the archives. But we'll be ready next time. He turned to face the assembled representatives of the galaxy's major powers. The Star Kings left us their knowledge for a reason. Not for any one species to dominate the others, but for all of us to advance together. You expect centuries of interspecies rivalry to simply vanish because of this, the Caldari ambassador growled, though there was less conviction in his voice than before. No, Alex admitted. But I expect it to change. We've just witnessed what happens when we face an existential threat divided. Imagine what we could accomplish united. The armor began to retract, folding away from Alex's body and returning to its standby configuration. As the helmet pulled back, he took a deep breath of the chamber's air, feeling strangely ordinary again despite everything that had happened. I'm still processing what all this means, he said, looking down at his delivery uniform, now wrinkled and stained with sweat. Yesterday I was worried about making rent. Today I've apparently inherited the legacy of an advanced civilization and helped repel an interdimensional invasion. Barrett smiled. Not bad for a delivery boy. I still have questions, Alex said, turning back to the central pedestal. Like why me? Why now? There must be thousands of people with the custodian genetics. Why was I the one who activated this facility? The chamber's voice responded, startling them all. Activation protocols were designed to identify optimal candidates based on multiple factors, including genetic compatibility, proximity to archive facilities, and psychological profile. Alex Mason was selected because he possessed the ideal combination of these factors. Psychological profile? Alex repeated. What does that mean? The Star Kings valued certain traits above others, the voice explained. Adaptability, compassion, curiosity without recklessness, courage without aggression, the willingness to help others without expectation of reward. Alex thought about his life, the ordinary struggles, the small kindnesses, the daily grind of being a delivery person in a colony on the edge of human space. Nothing special, nothing extraordinary, just doing his best with what he had. Those traits sound pretty human to me, he said. They are not exclusive to humans, the voice corrected. They have been observed in varying degrees across all species seeded with custodian genetics. This was by design. The Meridian delegates' form rippled with what appeared to be laughter. Perhaps what makes the Star King's legacy so powerful is that they recognize the value of qualities that transcend species. Over the next days, as the immediate crisis passed and the galaxy began to process what had happened, Alex remained at the archive chamber, learning more about his heritage and the responsibility he had unwittingly inherited. Teams of researchers from all major species arrived to study the facility, working together with an unprecedented level of cooperation. Reports came in from across settled space of other Sentinel facilities activating, other genetic heirs stepping into roles they never imagined. Some were scientists, some soldiers, some ordinary civilians like Alex. All of them connected through the network, sharing knowledge and coordinating the galaxy's new defenses. 1 week after the invasion, Alex stood on the roof of the building that concealed the archive chamber, looking out over New Terra Colony. Repair work was already underway, the destruction caused by the Harbingers being steadily erased. The massive obelisks of the dimensional stabilizers towered above the cityscape, their gentle golden glow a constant reminder of both the threat they had faced and the legacy they had inherited. Professor Barrett joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. The Galactic Concord Council is assembling a special commission to oversee the integration of Star King's technology, she said, handing him a cup. They want you to lead it. Alex nearly choked on his coffee. Me? I don't know the first thing about galactic politics. Maybe that's exactly why you're the right person, Barrett suggested. You don't have the centuries of prejudice and political maneuvering that most delegates carry. And you have something no one else has, a direct connection to the Star King's knowledge. I'm still just a delivery guy, Alex said, shaking his head. All this genetic heritage stuff doesn't change who I am. Perhaps not, Barrett agreed. But it changes what you can do. And sometimes that's enough. Alex sipped his coffee, considering. Through his connection to the Sentinel network, he could feel the other heirs across the galaxy, each coming to terms with their new reality in their own way. Some were embracing it eagerly, others reluctantly, but all of them were adapting. The Star Kings chose well when they created the custodian lineages, Barrett continued. They didn't select the strongest or most aggressive species. They chose those with potential, those who could learn and grow and, eventually, work together. It's a lot of pressure, Alex admitted, being the inheritors of an advanced civilization. Yes, but it's also an opportunity. The Star Kings could have simply left weapons, but they left knowledge. They could have designed the Sentinel network to activate automatically, but they made it require conscious choice. They trusted us, all of us, to make the right decisions when the time came. A sleek diplomatic shuttle approached the building, bearing the insignia of the Galactic Concord. The council representatives had arrived to speak with him. I guess delivery work is going to have to wait, Alex said with a wry smile. You could always deliver peace and cooperation instead of packages, Barrett suggested. Probably pays better too. Alex laughed, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Not comfortably yet, but not impossibly heavy either. I never expected any of this, you know. When I woke up last Tuesday, my biggest concern was whether I'd get a good tip on the university deliveries. Life rarely follows the paths we expect, Barrett said. Sometimes we deliver packages. Sometimes packages deliver us to our destiny. That's pretty philosophical for a xenoarchaeologist. I've been reading some Star King's philosophy from the archive, she admitted. They had some interesting ideas. The shuttle landed on the rooftop landing pad, and representatives from each major species in the Galactic Concord disembarked: humans, Tellurians, Caldari, Meridians, and others. Their faces showed a mixture of awe, uncertainty, and hope. Alex straightened his posture and stepped forward to greet them, the knowledge of the Star Kings flowing through his mind, guiding his words. He was still a delivery boy from New Terra Colony, but he was also something more now, a bridge between the past and the future, between different species and civilizations, between ordinary life and extraordinary possibility. Welcome, he said as the delegates approached. We have a lot to discuss. The Caldari ambassador, his missing arm now replaced with a prosthetic incorporating both his people's technology and elements from the Star King's archives, gave Alex a respectful nod. Indeed we do, Custodian Mason. Please, Alex said with a smile, call me Alex. I still haven't gotten used to the titles. As you wish, the ambassador replied, his scaled face showing what might have been the Caldari equivalent of amusement. Though I suspect you will adapt more quickly than you believe. You have already demonstrated remarkable aptitude for someone who was just a delivery boy a week ago. The group moved toward the rooftop entrance, where they would descend to the archive chamber for their meeting. As they walked, the The Meridian delegate drifted closer to Alex. "In our traditions," she said, her voice like chimes in a gentle breeze, "there is a saying. The most important messages often come from the most unexpected messengers." I believe the Star Kings understood this principle well. Alex thought about the path that had brought him here, a routine delivery, a chance reading of ancient symbols, a heritage he never knew he carried. How many others like him were out there? Ordinary people with extraordinary potential, waiting for the right moment to discover who they truly were? As they entered the archive chamber, the holographic galaxy map activated, showing the status of the Sentinel network. Thousands of points of light connected by gleaming lines, each representing a facility now awakened and staffed by a genetic heir like himself. A web of protection and knowledge spanning civilizations and species, created by those who had come before and entrusted to those who would carry their legacy forward. "The Star Kings left us more than technology," Alex said, addressing the assembled delegates. "They left us a vision of different species working together, of knowledge preserved and shared, of preparation for threats beyond our individual capabilities. They could have chosen any one civilization to inherit their legacy, but they chose all of us. I think there's wisdom in that choice that we're only beginning to understand." The delegates looked at one another, centuries of rivalry and suspicion slowly giving way to the dawning realization that they were all connected by a shared heritage they had never suspected. "We stand at a crossroads," Alex continued, the words coming naturally now. "We can use this legacy to advance our own species at the expense of others, or we can honor the Star King's vision and move forward together. The Void Harbingers will return someday. The archives are clear on that point. But next time, we'll be ready, not as separate civilizations, but as inheritors of a shared legacy." The chamber hummed with energy as the ancient systems responded to his words, recognizing the voice of a custodian who understood his purpose. On the holographic display, the connected points of light pulsed in unison, a galaxy united against the darkness between dimensions. Alex Mason, delivery boy, genetic heir, bridge between worlds, felt the weight of history behind him and the promise of the future ahead. He had delivered packages to pay his rent. Now he would deliver a message 50,000 years in the making, that together, the civilizations of the galaxy could face any challenge, even those that lurked in the void between stars. And somewhere, in a dimension beyond physical form, the ascended consciousness of the Star Kings observed their plan unfolding exactly as they had hoped. Their legacy was in good hands, ordinary hands that would accomplish extraordinary things. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.